They smile at you. They praise your work. They ask about your weekend plans, but behind that polished exterior could be a person quietly waiting for your downfall. Hatred is loud. But the real danger? It's subtle, masked by charm, delivered with a handshake, and often dressed in kindness. You think you're being paranoid, but what if your instincts are the only alarm you've got? Let's get real. The people we fear most aren't the ones shouting across the room. They're the ones watching silently, calculating behind the scenes, all while keeping up appearances. This video isn't about fear. It's about survival. We're going to uncover the 5 chilling signs that someone doesn't just hate you. They want you gone. And not just out of the room, out of the picture entirely. This isn't dramatic fiction. These patterns are grounded in psychology, subtle behaviors that can quietly unravel your reputation, your relationships, or worse, your sense of safety. These individuals move quietly under the radar. They may never raise their voice, but their intentions, they're razor sharp. If you've ever had a strange feeling about someone, a tension you couldn't explain, a coincidence that felt a little too perfect, don't ignore it. Pay close attention, because the more polite the mask, the more dangerous the face behind it. Let's begin. Sign number 1. The silent observer. This is one of the most chilling and dangerously overlooked signs that someone in your life may not just dislike you, they may be planning your quiet removal. I call it the silent observer. We're not talking about your average nosy neighbor or that co-worker who lingers too long in the break room. No, this is far more calculated. These people don't just watch. They study. They analyze, they memorize your daily routines, your body language, the way you walk, talk, even pause to think. And what makes it so unsettling is their ability to stay invisible. They move like shadows. They appear at the exact time you do, at your gym, your favorite cafe, even at the grocery store. They know your coffee order without ever asking. It starts to feel like coincidence, until it isn't. They make no threats. They raise no suspicion. Instead, they wait, learning, cataloging, observing, and until the moment comes. I once heard a story about a woman named Christine. She was a mid-level manager who had broken things off with a possessive ex. Months passed and she believed it was over, but he started appearing at her gym, at the dog park, even at her dry cleaners. Always polite, always silent. Friends told her not to worry. Maybe he just misses you, they said. He's not doing anything illegal. But Christine noticed something more terrifying than confrontation. He was always a few steps ahead. She changed her schedule. He adjusted. She switched gyms. He followed. That wasn't affection. It was preparation. The ancient Stoics, especially Epictetus, warned us never to assume appearances are harmless. They believed that true wisdom lies in perception, in learning to read the invisible threads that connect behavior with intent. Christine eventually moved out of state, not out of fear, but because her instincts refused to be silenced. And here's the lesson. When your peace feels disrupted by someone's presence, don't ignore it. That discomfort, that paranoia, it may be the only warning you get. We live in an age where surveillance doesn't require a parked van. All it takes is social media, mutual friends, and habits we don't guard closely enough. These people exploit familiarity. And the scariest part, they're often the last ones you'd expect. So if someone always seems to be where you are, even without invitation, it's not fate. It's a red flag. Your first defense, awareness. Your second, distance. Because the Stoics remind us when the soul is unsettled, don't silence it. Listen. And that leads us to the next, even darker sign, the kind that doesn't just target you, but your entire support system. It's more than dislike. It's dismantling your foundation piece by piece. Let's talk about sign number 2, the saboteur strategy. Previously, we uncovered the chilling presence of the silent observer, a person who blends in, studies you silently, and appears friendly while quietly collecting data on your every move. But once you begin recognizing this calculated presence, another layer of deception awaits. The enemy isn't always hidden behind silence. Sometimes they are disguised behind familiar smiles and charming words. Let's dive into the next dangerous behavior, the saboteur. Sign 2, the saboteur strategy. This one is especially insidious. Unlike the silent observer who lurks and watches, the saboteur attacks with whispers. It starts slow, a question here, a suggestion there. To your boss, they subtly imply you're not keeping up. To your friends, they insinuate you've changed. No accusations, just hints, spread like fog. Enough to cloud how others see you, but never so bold that they can be traced. And that's their brilliance. They don't need to destroy you outright. They just need to plant the idea that you might destroy yourself. Saboteurs understand the psychology of trust. They know that one carefully placed doubt is more damaging than 10 lies. They know that once people start questioning you, you'll start defending yourself. And ironically, that makes you look more suspicious. I've seen it firsthand. A colleague of mine, whom we'll call Mia, was a rising star in her company. She worked hard, stayed late, and had a sterling reputation. Until suddenly, she didn't. Projects were miscommunicated. Deadlines were missed. People whispered. A teammate she once mentored began to casually mention Mia's stress issues in meetings. But Mia wasn't stressed. She was being sabotaged. And the worst part, she started doubting herself. That's what the saboteur wants. Your confusion is their camouflage. While you're scrambling to fix what they've broken, they're already planting the next seed. From a Stoic perspective, this is a direct assault on your equilibrium. Stoicism teaches us to hold fast to what we know, to reality, not rumor. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The saboteur lives by the opposite principle. They distort truth and weaponize perception. So what do you do when you suspect someone is poisoning your circle? You don't match whispers with more whispers. You document. You clarify. You make your intentions, your work, your actions loud and unmistakably clear. You don't panic. You prepare. Be calm. Be calculating. Be one step ahead. The Stoic doesn't fall for every rumor. The Stoic anchors themselves in fact, builds alliances with integrity, and lets their character speak over time. And the truth? It always reveals itself, if you give it the patience to rise. Now that we've pulled back the curtain on the saboteur, it's time to reveal one of the darkest masks of all, the false friend. A person who doesn't just want access to your life, but aims to dismantle it from within. Previously, we exposed the saboteur, the master of whispers, who destabilizes your world one rumor at a time. But as you pull away from the shadows of gossip and manipulation, you enter even more treacherous terrain. Because not all enemies wear masks, some wear your friendship. Sign 3, the false friend facade. It starts innocently enough, a warm smile, a friendly message, a helping hand when you least expect it. You tell yourself, maybe I've found a real friend. But in the background, something feels off. They're interested in everything, your work, your relationships, your insecurities. But somehow it feels more like an interview than a conversation. The false friend facade is perhaps the most deceptive mask of all. Unlike the silent observer, or even the saboteur, this one gets close fast. Too fast. Their sudden investment in your life feels flattering at first. They remember small details. They ask personal questions with charm, and they always seem to be there at the perfect time. But here's the reality. People who truly care For you don't need to accelerate trust. Real friendship is steady. It unfolds organically over time. The false friend. They build it like a blueprint, strategically, surgically, and with an outcome in mind. What do they want? Access. Access to your habits, your thoughts, your past. Not to help you, but to use it all as leverage. They'll complement your achievements while subtly comparing you to others. They'll share a vulnerability of their own, just enough to make you feel safe opening up. But your secrets don't stay safe. They travel, disguised as concern, framed as just between us. These individuals use the currency of trust to fund their manipulation. One of the most chilling stories I ever heard involved a man named Elias, a successful entrepreneur who let a new colleague into his circle. They bonded quickly. Dinners turned into deep conversations. Business meetings blurred into personal advice. But behind the curtain, this so-called friend was slowly building a case against Elias, gathering private information, twisting confidences into slander, and eventually leaking just enough to damage Elias's reputation before a major deal. And then he vanished. The Stoics would see this not as betrayal, but as poor discernment. Marcus Aurelius warned, "Be tolerant with others, strict with yourself." The lesson? Not everyone who seems close belongs close. What can you do? Take it slow. Deep relationships are earned, not rushed. Watch how they talk about others, because that's how they'll talk about you. If you feel like someone is pushing for access before you're ready, pause. Ask yourself, why are they in a hurry? Guard your vulnerabilities as you would a rare gem, only revealed when trust is proven, not assumed. Let your boundaries become your shield. And never forget, loyalty that demands too much too soon is rarely loyalty at all. Now, if the false friend is dangerous because they play close, the next type is dangerous because they don't play at all. They escalate, fast, loud, and without warning. Sign 4. The escalating aggressor. This is the person who doesn't just dislike you, they despise your presence, but instead of holding that dislike quietly, they feed it. And the more you try to calm the storm, the more they turn up the heat. The escalating aggressor isn't unpredictable, they're inevitable. The signs begin subtly: sarcastic remarks, passive-aggressive jokes, eye rolls in meetings. But what makes them different is how rapidly the hostility grows once they realize you're not backing down. They thrive in conflict, not because they're courageous, but because they crave domination. They don't want to win the argument. They want to silence your voice. Maybe it's a co-worker who starts undermining your every idea, or a neighbor who nitpicks your every move. At first it might seem like a misunderstanding, but over time it's clear. Their goal is not to coexist, but to exhaust. And the moment you push back, they escalate. They twist your reactions into ammunition. See, look how defensive they are. Or worse, they're always the problem. Suddenly you're not just defending your actions, you're defending your character. In these moments, Stoicism becomes your anchor. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Here's what that looks like. 1. Detach emotionally. Don't feed their drama. 2. Document everything. Protect yourself with facts. 3. Set firm boundaries. No more casual conversation, no openings for passive aggression. 4. Limit exposure. Move them to the outer circle of your life. The truth is, escalating aggressors test your patience, your peace, and your pride. But don't give them what they want. They want you emotional. Be precise instead. They want chaos, be calm. They want noise, be silence. Eventually they'll move on to someone who gives them what they crave. Drama. You'll walk away stronger, with your peace intact. And that leads us to the most chilling personality of all. One that blends charm with calculation, warmth with weaponry, the patient predator. Sign 5. The patient predator. In the world of hidden hostility and covert aggression, the most dangerous enemy is not the one who lashes out in anger, nor the one who threatens you openly. It's the one who waits, silently, strategically. That's the patient predator. The fifth and final sign that someone in your life doesn't just dislike you, they want you gone, and they're willing to wait for it. Previously, we spoke about escalating aggression, the person who slowly pushes boundaries, testing how much they can get away with. But what if you've seen no warning signs at all? No offhand comments, no suspicious glares, just kindness, helpfulness, familiarity. That's the paradox. The patient predator doesn't tip their hand. Their strength isn't in violence, it's in patience. While you're living your life, they're making notes. Not dramatic ones, subtle ones. Your travel schedule, your habits, the time you leave. For work, the nights you come home late, even the names of your closest friends and family. Every conversation, every detail they gather isn't for closeness, it's reconnaissance. Their mission isn't to bond, it's to map. They don't raise alarms, they raise trust. They remember your birthday before your parents do. They offer to walk your dog, water your plants, pick up your groceries. To everyone else, they're that amazing friend or that dependable co-worker. To you, they become a quiet comfort. They embed themselves into your routine so seamlessly that the very idea of questioning their intentions feels wrong. And that's the danger, because what they're building isn't friendship. It's a network of access. They'll befriend your family. They'll show up at your workplace. They'll ask innocent questions. Are you going out of town this weekend? When's your lease up again? What days are you usually off? Harmless gun until you realize they know more about your life than they should. Until you realize that what they're collecting isn't connection, it's control. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, warned us of this illusion. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. But what happens when someone else is quietly deciding what you will be? How and when your downfall will unfold? Their discipline is not virtue, it's vengeance dressed in patience. They don't slip. They don't strike out in rage. They strike when you slip. That one day when your support system is thin, when your boundaries are relaxed, when your instincts are lulled into silence by the steady hum of trust. That's when they move. And it's clean, clinical, and devastating. So how do you recognize a patient predator before it's too late? 1. They accelerate emotional closeness too quickly. They act like a best friend by week 2. They know your fears and stories before you've even had a chance to process theirs. That's not connection, that's a con. 2. They ask too many personal questions. Not out of curiosity, but out of purpose. They log your patterns, your people, your triggers. 3. They offer help in high-leverage areas, paying for things, offering you rides, volunteering to do tasks you normally reserve for people you truly trust. 4. They mirror your personality. They echo your phrases, mimic your beliefs, and build rapport through emotional mimicry. They become a reflection of what you trust, so they can slip past your defenses. 5. They are always there. And while loyalty is a virtue, omnipresence can be a tactic. Ask yourself, are they building trust, or are they surveilling? The Stoics believed in discernment, in observing the why behind people's actions, not just the what. Seneca said, "A friend is someone you trust with your soul, but trust must be earned, not rushed." So here's what you do. Guard your privacy. Don't overshare, even with those who feel unusually safe. Real relationships build slowly. Create space. If someone always wants to be around you, set gentle but firm boundaries. If they react poorly, that's a red flag. Protect routine info. Don't advertise your schedule, your travel, plans, or your vulnerabilities. Be kind but not naive. Kindness is your strength, but blind access is a liability. Watch their reactions. When you set boundaries or push back, do they respect it, or do they guilt you, challenge you, or withdraw affection? Predators don't like locked doors. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. The world will always have those who move in shadow, who smile with one hand outstretched while the other hides the blade. But that's why philosophy matters. That's why Stoicism endures, because it teaches us to stay awake, to live not just with virtue but with vision. Remember, not everyone who offers you a hand is reaching out to lift you up. Some are testing your grip, so stay grounded, stay wise, and above all, stay vigilant. The patient predator is out there, but with the right insight and inner strength, you won't just survive, you'll never be caught off guard again. Final reflection, Stoic wisdom for survival. You've walked through shadows with us, 7 signs, 5 facades, 1 truth. The deadliest threats are not always the loudest, but the most disguised. From silent observers who study your routines, saboteurs whispering suspicion, to false friends cloaked in empathy. Each lesson we've uncovered was never just about recognizing danger, it was about reclaiming your power. What Stoicism teaches us is not paranoia, it's presence. To live wisely is not to fear what lurks in the dark, but to recognize how we let the dark in. Seneca reminded us that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, yet what happens when your imagination turns out to be reality? That's when the Stoic must not retreat, but rise. The false friend doesn't knock down the door, they enter through it, welcomed. The escalating aggressor doesn't scream at first, they laugh. The patient predator doesn't chase, they wait. In each case, the danger was not in the obvious, but in what felt familiar, safe, even comforting. But comfort is not always truth. Sometimes it's a lullaby played by the enemy. And so, what do? We do not silence our instincts, we sharpen them. We do not share blindly, we guard intentionally. We do not let others decide our worth, we walk in it, speak it, live it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What shade are you carrying today? Fear, guilt, doubt, or are you now ready to let vigilance paint your future with strength, boundaries, and wisdom? Trust slowly. Speak sparingly. Love deeply but wisely. Because true Stoicism isn't about being untouchable, it's about being unshakable. Not because nothing touches you, but because you know what deserves to. Remember the tools. Observe without assuming. Listen without rushing. Speak only when the words carry purpose. Document what matters. Defend with integrity. Disengage with clarity. If your peace is worth protecting, then your silence is worth mastering. When in doubt, come back to these truths. The ones carved not in stone but in scars, in reflections, in the stillness of a mind finally awake. This journey was not for the faint-hearted, it was for the fiercely conscious. And if you made it here, you're not just surviving. You're transforming. Every sign you've learned is now armor. Every Stoic thought a blade. Not to hurt, but to cut away illusion, betrayal, and the naive idea that evil only comes dressed in rage. Now you know better. You know how to see the mask behind the smile, the whisper beneath the praise, the plan behind the patience. You've become the still eye in the storm. Not because you stopped the storm, but because now it cannot shake you. So here's the call. Don't just remember. Re-watch, reread, reinforce, and share this. Because somewhere someone is smiling at a silent observer, handing their secrets to a saboteur, or welcoming a false friend into their most sacred spaces. They don't know yet, but now you do. If this message struck something inside you, don't let it stay here. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, share it with someone you know needs it. And when you're ready, step into our next guide, where we expose the covert narcissist, twin shadow to everything you've just seen. Protect your peace. Guard your story. Live like a Stoic, and I'll see you aware, awake, and unshaken in the next one.